Okay, that was a power-packed video for everyone. Hello and welcome everybody. This is Rashmi from Designhill and your host for the day. I hope you and your families are keeping well and staying safe, taking all the necessary precautions and taking care of your near and dear ones. Welcome back to yet another event by Designhill, and today we are discussing about customer experience strategies and tips for 2021. I would be glad to know where you're joining us from. So do let me know that in the chat section. So the event is brought to you by Design Hill, which is the world's leading creative marketplace that caters to small businesses and individuals alike who can source high quality designs and buy unique products created by professional designers from around the world. Through its print-on-demand marketplace called Printshop by Designhill, you can buy 50 plus unique products with thousands of artwork created by world-class community of independent artists. Without any further ado, let me introduce all our panelists for today. We have Greg Milia with us. Greg is a CEO at CXPA. He works with CXPA Board of Directors to ensure the health of CXPA's culture, strengthen its position as a trusted source of all things CX, and leads the CXPA staff to support the vibrant, growing worldwide CXPA community. Greg is a certified association executive with 20 years of association management experience. Greg, would you like to go ahead and say a quick hi to the audience?
Hello, everyone. It's so great to see people calling in, tuning in from all over the world. A special shout out to Al up in Raleigh. I think you're probably the closest to me, and to the participant from Buffalo, where I did some studies in creative problem solving. Great to see you guys.
Next, we have Annette Friends with almost 30 years in the customer experience field. Annette Friends is an internationally recognized customer experience thought leader, coach, keynote speaker, and author of Customer Understanding: 3 Ways to Put the Customer in Customer Experience. She is also the 2020 CXPA Board Chair. Annette.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. 2020 board chair, not 2021. Yes, thanks everybody for joining us. Hey, Al, great to see you. Give you another shout out here. And we're looking forward to a very exciting conversation here. So thanks again for joining us.
Great. Next, we have Adrian Swinsko with us. Adrian Swinsko is the best-selling author, Forbes contributor, speaker, investor, advisor, and aspirant CX punk. He has been growing and helping develop customer-focused large and small businesses for over 25 years now. His clients have included Apple, KFC, Philip, Microsoft, Pearson, and many more. Adrian is a frequent writer, podcaster, and speaker on all things related to customer service and experience. He published a best-selling book in 2016 called How to Wow: 68 Effortless Ways to Make Every Customer Experience Amazing, and recently published a new book called Punk CX. Adrian.
Hey, Rashmi. Hi, everybody. Nice to be here. We're sort of spanning the globe here. I think Annette's all the way in kind of California. Neil's in Florida. Greg's in South Carolina. I think that's kind of right. I'm in the UK. Rashmi, you're coming from India. And then we've got people in the chat from all over the place. So very excited to be here. Looking forward to it. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Adrian. Next, we have Neil Toth. Neil is the president and co-founder of Callzilla, a quality and customer experience focused outsourced contact center. He is also the co-host and co-founder of Fireside Chats Without the Fires, which is a podcast about customer experience. Neil.
Good morning, good day, everyone. I am so happy to be part of this panel. I am a little starstruck with Annette and Adrian and Greg. I'm kind of pinching myself. I'm not sure what I'm doing here, but I'm thrilled to be part of it. I'm really happy to see that there's people from all over the globe here, and we're watching this chat, and from Asia, from nearshore, particularly where my company operates from. So I'm really thrilled. Hats off to the nearshore people here onshore in the US and from all over the globe. And a final thank you to Designhill for inviting me. I love the intro video. Sign me up. I'm ready to become a customer.
Thank you so much, Neil, for that. All right, so guys, we had one more panelist joining us today. Elise was supposed to join us, but because of some family emergencies, she could not be here today. But let's get started with today's panel discussion. But before that, I would like to thank everyone, all the panelists today, for taking out the time from your schedule and joining us today. Before we move forward, I have quick announcements to make. Um, so we are giving away certificates to all the attendees who would stick till the end of the session. So make sure you stay with us till the end. Also, you can take the screenshot of this event, post it on your Twitter, use hashtag Designhill events and tag Designhill DH. And all our speakers whose Twitter handle will be shared in the chat section by my team member Harshita. One lucky winner will have a chance to win a print shop gift card worth $50. So make sure you do that and you grab this opportunity to win a $50 gift card. Also, we will be sharing an exclusive coupon code with everyone at the end of the session, using which you can avail a 15% off on Designhill contest service to build your brand. So stay tuned and we will be sharing the same at the end. All right, so before we start the session, let's quickly look at what Designhill is all about.
Looking to get your boss to remember your name? Head to the world's number one creative marketplace, Designhill.
My company promoted me to head up our latest real estate development project. I was excited, then anxious, then petrified. How was I going to hire the team, get the designs completed, and design beautiful presentation materials on our lean budget while impressing my bosses, some of whom are still learning my name?
Good job, Mitch.
My name's Lawrence. That's why I went to Designhill and got the design help I needed that fit within my company's brand guidelines. The process was simple. Designhill's design contest ensured I'd get a ton of results I'd love. Start by picking a number of designs that inspire you. This one's good, and that one. This one speaks to me. Then share some information about the project. Lastly, pick a package that fits your budget. Do you just want a logo, or do you want it all? Then, boom. I got more than 60 custom design options to choose from, as well as all the other graphic design assets I wanted. And it's all backed by Designhill's 100% money-back guarantee. If I don't find a design I like, I get my money back. You can't lose. Now I have what I need to make a splash in my meetings, with everything from business cards, pamphlets, posters, and more. It's real.
Let the world know it's real and build your brand with Designhill.
That was all about Designhill, and now we are all set to start the session. If you have any question, guys, please make sure you drop them in the question section and we will take them up in the last 15 minutes of the session. So let's get started. Adrian, let me start with you with the first question, and then I will take the question to the other panelists as well to add on their opinions. Yeah, make sure you unmute yourself. So there has been a lot of buzz around customer experience and the way it has been emerging as a key differentiator in the consumer industry. But what exactly customer experience is, and what makes for a great customer experience? If you can throw some light on that.
Oh my God, what a huge question. Blimey. Okay, let me take a stab at giving you a view on it. So customer experience is important for many reasons. One, because it's like we've seen a convergence in competition's gone up. We've seen a convergence in terms of the difference between different products and services. And actually, the only thing that we can really that really differentiates between one product or one service and another is sort of the service and experience that we get. Now, the problem with kind of experience, it's very relative, right? And it has to be it's relative to your brand and kind of your positioning and your industry and all of those different sort of things. And so what constitutes a good or a great customer experience will depend. It will differ depending if you are a manufacturer of toothpaste, or you're a manufacturer of luxury cars, or you're a provider of a software service, or you're you're a hotelier or a restaurateur or whatever. So it all depends. There is no one size fits all. So I think that this whole area is an area of actually looking at and thinking about what is the problem that our company faces and what's the best way to achieve the outcomes that we want and the experience that we want to deliver. And rather than actually looking at other people, yes, you can learn from them. We need to actually be informed about ourselves and what our customers want and desire, and then work towards kind of that. That's a rough go at it, I guess. I hope I did okay. Did I pass, Greg?
Greg, you gotta unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself, Greg. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll leave myself unmuted so I can jump in whenever I need to there. But Adrian, that was fantastic. I mean, you caught on to the real essence here, which is this is complicated. And what makes a great experience for one person and for another depends on both the company and the needs at the time. But I do want to share, what we did at CXPA was to get together and ask a number of different customer experience experts to come together and have a consensus definition. What is customer experience? And for that, we said customer experience refers to the perception that customers have of an organization, one that is formed across all touch points, people, technology, and interactions over time. So, Adrian's right. Sometimes a customer is looking to get in, get a purchase quickly, and get it cheaply. Other times they're looking for you to treat them with luxury and personalization. So we have to be very sophisticated in the way that we bring it together. And I think that's what Neil and Annette and the rest of us are trying to do, is to create ways for our company to relate to our customers in the way that our customers want to be related to.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Adrian. Annette, I would like to take this question to you as well. As per your experience, what does customer experience mean to you, and what do you think? What makes a great customer experience?
Yeah, and I'll just tag on to obviously the definition that Greg just came up with. He didn't just come up with it, but then he just said it's one that we came up with, through conversations with CXPA members and the board and everything. And the only thing that I'll just add on to that or clarify onto that is that, the interactions, and I think it's important that we note here the difference between customer experience and customer service, right? I think that's the only thing that I want to just call out there, is that customer service is one of those interactions, right? Customer experience is, the umbrella discipline, and it's the sum of all those interactions plus the perceptions, as Greg mentioned. And so just wanted to call out that differentiation there. The other thing is that, it's to Adrian's point, as we, businesses and products and services become more and more commoditized, customer experience is really the true differentiator. And that's what, that's what customers tell us. And I would say, in terms of what makes a great experience, I'll just say that we all have our own definition of what a great customer experience is, right? And so the most important thing for every business to do is to take the time to listen and to understand their customers, understand their needs, their pain points, the problems they're trying to solve, and ask them what a great experience looks like, right? It's going to be, as they both mentioned, it's going to depend on you, it's going to depend on the product, it's going to depend on the brand, all of that. But the best thing to do is ask your customers. Don't assume, just take the time to listen to your customers and understand.
That was a great point, Annette. Thank you so much. Neil, let me take this next question to you. And let's talk about the benefits that customer experience brings for an organization in terms of ROI, since it does involve manpower, training, and cost to the company, right? So why should businesses invest in customer experience, and how does it benefit the organization and bring ROI for them?
So the obvious thought is that if you treat your customers well, they will return. And if they return, they're utilizing word of mouth, they're continuing to purchase, customer lifetime value increases. It all translates in theory to the bottom line. It's not always so linear, however, and I think that one of the important things in our field that we can do to continue to improve our work is create the tie-in between CX and business results. We can, in fact, prove that CX should translate to better business results, but it doesn't always happen. There are other things that also have to take place. Just because you do CX well doesn't mean you're going to have great business results, and vice versa. Certainly, the opposite is true. If you don't, just because you're a profitable company doesn't always mean you're treating your customers well. The one thing that worries me in our field, and the big challenge, is we see two kind of realities. The CX space is exploding. Look at the attendees here in this session today. They're from literally all over the world. We have more and more bright people entering our profession, more and more really skilled, capable people working in this space. We have associations like Greg's, CXPA, that are training us, that are preparing us. We have greater technology. We have more communication channels. We have technology that is more and more accessible. The marketplace is wide open. Yet I would argue, and the evidence supports depending on the studies you look at, but if you look at, for example, in the US, there's a thing called customer rage study. It shows you we're getting worse at providing better customer experiences. So there's a strange reality going on, and we got to be very careful. What we are doing in this collective group here on the panel and our audience, we care very much about CX, but there's still major challenges out there. And if we tackle those, our businesses will do much, much better.
Thank you so much, Neil. Greg, I would like to take the same question to you as well. Neil talked about how, what there are challenges in implementing customer experiences, in an organization. So, and since we are talking about the tips and innovation for 2021 as well, what do you think? Why should businesses invest in customer experiences in today's time, specifically post-pandemic, and how does it benefit businesses?
Sure. Well, I think that Adrian, really began to name and really show that this is a differentiating factor. We want to not only get customers, but we want our customers to be happy. We want our customers to refer other people to do business with us. We want them to come back, and we want them to do more. So the imperative for folks to have a great customer experience where they become long-term customers and advocates for the brand makes sense. It delivers the business results that Neil's looking for. I think it's important that becomes systematic so that you have processes in place to foster and develop and convert folks into long-term membership. But as we look at this question of the world that we're facing today, we really need to think about what are our customers looking for? And quite often now they're looking for a way to interact with us that is safe, so that they can order things at a distance, et cetera. They're looking for things that are convenient. And the notion of convenience has changed. Now people want to have things delivered to their car rather than to be able to find it on the shelf in the store. And people want to be able to contact and get follow-up when they need to. But I want to point out one thing that Annette said that I think is really, really important. And that is that if you have a great customer experience program, you are reducing the need to have reactive customer service. So it's really the idea of creating a system that works for everybody so that you don't have to fix mistakes, but you have a great experience up front.
Great. Adrian, let me take the same question to you as well. As Greg also mentioned that the pandemic has changed a lot of things for businesses. How do you see the pandemic influencing CRM and customer experiences initiative? And what kind of changes do you see in the industry post-pandemic? Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Sorry, technology, wrestling with it. So I think one of the things that we need to pay attention to is, so right now we're in the midst of a pandemic, and that's affecting different parts of the world in different kind of ways. And, it's great news that many parts of the world are making advances in vaccinations and advancing the vaccination kind of program, and that provides some kind of relief. But that is lumpy across the world, and therefore the situation that we find ourselves with a health pandemic, I don't think is going to kind of like disappear very quickly, because we've still got a long way to go before the world, and I mean the whole world, can open up again, I think. So that's kind of like point one. The second point is that as things start to be able to open up and economic activity starts to accelerate, I think what we have to kind of acknowledge also is that there's going to be a lot of fallout, not just kind of people that have tragically kind of been affected by the pandemic, but in terms of their health, and they've kind of lost loved ones and so on and so forth. but also that many people have been either lost their jobs, lost income, been made redundant, and everything else. And many economies around the world are sort of inflated right now by government stimulus. And what we haven't seen is what's going to happen post that. So I actually think there's once the effects of the pandemic recede, we'll see an economic, potentially a longer, sort of a short to medium term economic tightening. We might see an initial bounce as things open up, but actually a level of aggregate demand may actually be kind of lower. That's going to increase the competition on firms kind of overall. And I think what we'll end up seeing is companies having to probably pay more attention to protecting what they've already got rather than going out and just being primarily focused on acquiring customers. So I think there's going to be companies going to have to kind of like strike the right sort of balance around how they respond to this changing environment, because I think the environment's still going to change. It will keep changing for at least the next kind of year, if not 18 kind of months or so.
Great. Neil, let me take the next question to you. So there will be a lot of pressure on organization on cost cutting and minimizing the operational cost post-pandemic, since there was a major lockdown that has happened and companies have gone through a lot already. So what do you think organizations should and should not be doing when it comes to customer experiences, so that, what are those right points where companies should be cutting down the cost and where they should not be?
I love this question. What I'm going to say might be a little bit controversial. It might be a little controversial, especially because I operate primarily a live agent contact center, an outsourced contact center. So our business is primarily having humans sitting in a workstation, handling customer interactions. I think the days of 100% environments of 100% live agents are over. I'm not saying that because I want that. I think it's the reality with the pressure of cost cutting, with labor market restrictions and complications in most major global markets. I think that our major brands have to consider how to automate interactions in customer care and customer service. Again, I'm not saying that because I love it or hate it. I just think it's a fact with the need to cut costs. I'll add something even a little bit more controversial here, which is, and I alluded to this in the customer rage study, I'm not so sure how well we are doing our jobs in customer care. If we can't do our jobs well, there's not a major button you can push. I always say there's no call center button, there's no contact center button where you press it and the thing is solved. This is very difficult work that we do. There's some science, there's some art to it. It's not easy to do. Because it's not easy, because it requires an incredible mix of preparation, operational preparedness, a little of luck, I think if we can't beat them, you join them. And what I mean by that is you start to introduce innovation, automation. So we can't necessarily do it well every single time. At least you can start to take some cost out of it. And you can do it hopefully as well or close to as well, but you're able to take 2/3 out of the cost. That's a big differentiating factor for enterprises that they must at least consider. Again, it's controversial because this involves things of employment, people's livelihoods. And I'm not suggesting that this is the way to go, but I think this is unfortunately, or for better or worse, these are the things that are in front of us as a result of the pandemic.
Thank you. Enid, as Neil talked about introducing technology in the business to sort of reduce down the cost, what do you think about it? What steps should organizations be taking when they have this pressure of cost cutting?
I think, first of all, at a high level, I think businesses are always under pressure, or people within the business are always under pressure to cut costs, right? And to do things more efficiently and more effectively. So at a high level, I just say, they need to just stay the course in terms of customer experience, continue to focus on their employees, continue to focus on their customers. But to Neil's point, I 110% agree. I have a couple of clients in the automation space, and this is where we're headed, where we're already there. There are a ton of businesses who are already doing this, and I think it's a huge way to cut costs. It's not necessarily a way to cut jobs, right? So with my clients, what they're focused on is automating processes, right? automating processes, not automating people. We still have to teach the robots to do what it is that they need to do. But once we've done that and we've taken the menial and the repetitive and those painful tasks off their plates, now your employees have the opportunity to upskill, spend more time focusing on customer relationships, and spend more time focusing on the more valuable work. And so I 110% agree that is where things are headed, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I know that scares a lot of people, but it's not necessarily a bad thing.
All right. So let's talk about the voice of employees now. Greg, let me take this question to you. We all understand the voice of customer is important and should be heard, right? But what about the voice of employees? Why employee experience should be considered and should be a top priority for an organization as well to deliver better customer experience? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, and I think that we've seen some threads on this, and we see some conversations in the question and chat. The reality is our customers are looking to our organizations to understand them and to add value to the experience that they're having interacting with us. The people who are delivering that are our employees, whether they are the folks that are designing the product, are marketing or communicating about the product, are delivering it, or answering the phone, when somebody's contacting us. If we're not equipping and empowering those staff to bring their human insight, to bring their understanding of the customer, to bring their unique perspective of knowing both the customer and the company, to the equation, we're missing an opportunity to do something that might improve the process or might surprise and delight. So, the customer is king. Make no mistake. If you created a company that had the best employee experience in the world, but you didn't prioritize delivering value to the customer, you're going to go out of business. We need to have a customer experience first, and then we need to have that in tandem and supported with employee experience, just as we need to have the customer experience supported by user experience as well.
All right. So thank you so much, Greg, for answering that question. Before we move forward with the same question, I would like to give a quick shout out to Designhill for organizing this event. Stay tuned, everyone, and we will be right back to hear from our panelists.
Claremax is a full-service video agency based around video production. We created a brand that fit our identity at the time, but as we've evolved as a company, we found that original brand didn't quite fit our aspirations anymore. Finding a partner to rebrand your entire company takes a lot of time and effort. Finding Designhill was an incredible lifeline. Designhill offers a money-back guarantee. If we don't like any of the designs, we get all of our money back. The stuff that we ended up with were well beyond what we had been seeing on other creative services platforms. After creating a simple design brief by answering some questions created by Designhill, we posted, and within a few days, we had over 250 entries. Designhill's platform made it easy to communicate with all the potential designers. Eventually, we picked a winner. In addition to a logo, our designer also created a letterhead, business cards, and banners for all of our social media platforms. With Designhill's help, we now have a brand that meets our aspirations. We're ready for the future and everything that it's here to bring.
All right, we are back after a short break. So, Adrian, let me take this same question to you, which Greg was answering before, which was about voice of employees. So, would you like to add to that why, voice of employee is equally important as voice of customer, and how do organizations make sure that they are listening to their employees and making sure that they have a great experience as well as the customer should have?
Yes, I agree. But I think the thing that what we need to do is we need to recognize that if you think about voice of the customer, a lot of the time when people think about the voice of the customer, they automatically kind of think about, oh, this is feedback that you get from surveys. and that's kind of like it. And they don't realize that you need to add to that. The voice of the customer comes in all sorts of different kind of from different, can come to you in different ways. It could come from your delivery drivers or your suppliers or your kind of like what you hear on the street or your kind of frontline staff, all these different sort of things. Or it might be just the things that it might be from your support tickets that come into your help center. It could be all these different sort of things, right? As well as your operational data. So there's a huge spectrum of sources that sit in that voice of the customer space. I think what we also need to do is we also need to kind of recognize that the same sort of sources exist in the voice of the employee. Now, some people will go, oh, we're in touch with our employees because we send out this pulse survey and then we ask them for their opinions. We have to recognize that many people are not predisposed to necessarily answer those kind of surveys. And also, many people aren't very honest. And they don't kind of write what they mean or say what they think, as it were, right? So we have to actually kind of make sure that we also understand kind of like that we have to go to where the employees are and do more to get a better understanding of what the employees really experience and what their insight is. I think there's there is a great quote that I love from a Polish-American language scholar called Joseph Krzyzewski. And he says, the map is not the territory. And I think that's the thing, is like many ways we can see surveys and all these different sort of things as being the map, right? Which is very different to what happens on the ground. And sometimes we have to travel to really understand kind of what is actually going on there on the ground to bring the, if you like, the data to life, to get a really visceral understanding of what is actually kind of going on and what matters and what's important. Because let's not forget, we talk about, and all this talk about technology and machine learning and AI and supercomputers and all the neural networks and all this sort of like stuff. We already have a network of supercomputers within most organizations. They're just biological, organic ones. They're called your employees. And yet we don't tap into that neural network or those neural networks as much as we could, because they are waiting to be asked. And we just need to go and ask them.
Great. Thank you so much, Adrian. Annette, let me take the next question to you, and I will ask the same question to Greg as well to add on his opinion. So as we see post-pandemic, a lot of organizations are encouraging and adapting to remote work. What challenges do you think companies are facing in this transition, and what do they need to ensure in a remote work setup for a better customer experience?
So this is a great question. I love it. I think, here we are almost a year into this pandemic, and I think that work from home, remote work is, I think people are set, right? You've got the tools, the technology, we've sort of gotten into the groove. Companies have discovered that their employees are more productive as a result of working from home. And I think a lot of people don't want to go back to the office. I think they want to continue to work from home because it gives you a lot of freedom and flexibility. I've worked from home for the last 20 years, so it's not new for me, but I love it, right? It's a great way to sometimes put a little balance into your life. But I think the biggest challenge that companies are having right now is around culture and how do we maintain our culture in a work from home environment or in a remote work environment? And the really crazy part about that is that, so culture is values plus behavior, right? So you've got to have your values defined, and you have to also define and explain what are acceptable behaviors and what are unacceptable behaviors. And interestingly enough, I saw an article the other day, and I've seen a ton of these over the last several weeks about companies challenged with culture. This one was about Google, and Google was concerned that they weren't able to give their employees the perks that they have when they're in the office. And my first thought was, well, culture isn't perks. There's so much more to culture than perks, right? And yes, that's part of who you are, and that's part of how Google, their environment and how they've come up. But culture is so much more than perks, and that's really if that is a part of your legend and legacy and how you've always done things, then yeah, great. But I think the really important thing is if people know the values, know the behaviors that are aligned with that, because culture really is about how we do things around here, and it's also about the things that we do when nobody is looking, right? And so I think that if you've established your culture and you've done a good job of doing that, moving people home or having people work remotely, maybe it's a little bit of a challenge, but I think it's just a reminder that you've got to not only socialize and continue to do that, but operationalize your values as well.
Great. So culture is the one challenge that Annette feels that companies are facing in this transition to remote work. Greg, would you like to add to that? What other challenges do you think companies are facing in this transition? And in a remote work setup, what do they need to take care of for better customer experience?
Yeah, so I think I'd add two things to what Annette did. And Annette, I'll give you some CCXP, Certified Customer Experience Professional credits for your answer. It was a good lecture. The two things that I think I would bring forward. One, this is a time when we need to have more empathy than ever before. And that's empathy for our customers and empathy for our staff and empathy for the colleagues and providers that we work with. Give a little bit of grace and space and understand that people may be facing challenges in their lives that are more prevalent than ever before. Isolation, illness, stress, dealing with things. So that's something that needs to ramp up. And if you take care of your staff will take care of your customers. But make sure that you're also empowering your staff to understand how they have the right to treat the customer the right way. Early in my career, I had the chance to work on the staff of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. And many of you know that Ritz-Carlton makes sure that every employee is empowered to know that if they hear a problem from a guest, they own it and that they should take it and get it solved. Make sure that you're letting people know that they have that same responsibility. The second thing that I think people should think about is yes, we can't get people the pool table, to play with their friends and those types of perks. But what you can do, and what's probably more important than ever before, is you can invest in professional development for your staff. You can take this opportunity to encourage them to take a course, to tune into a program like this, to earn their certification. That will help them deliver a better customer experience by building their skills. Because right now, people are thinking, how do I balance being a teacher a couple days a week for my kids that are going through school? How do I balance taking care of my household? How do I balance taking care of my family and my networks? Make sure that you're also encouraging them to continue to be a stronger professional.
That was a great point, Greg. Thank you so much for that. Neil, let me take the next question to you. So let's talk about customer communication. It does play a huge role in overall customer experience, right? What are some of the things that people say a lot in customer service that they should not be saying? For example, I was listening to this podcast called Crack the Customer Code, and there I heard that often in response to a customer's question, people say phrases like, to be honest, and to be completely honest, phrases like these, and that raises a doubt on the previous answers that the team has given to that customer. So what are some of these words or phrases that can be received poorly when it comes to customer service?
Wow, this is actually a tough one. So I'm going to admit, I'm not an expert in this one. This goes a lot to training, and I think there's some psychology behind here. In my opinion, I think it's less about the words. It's more about the chemistry. Some people use the word empathy. Empathy may be it, but it's chemistry. It's establishing chemistry, rapport, dialogue between brand and customer. If we want customer to trust us, and we have a very, 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 very short window of opportunity to do so, we must prove that we are listening, right? Listening. We close our mouths and we listen, and we let the customer express to us what it is that their issue is. I'm not worried about the expression, the words, the phrases. I think there's something much more important, which is what we don't say, our ability to listen, and our ability to resolve. If we resolve, then you get to satisfaction. I don't think it's about the thing, it's not about the words. It's more about the art of how you do it.
Annette, would you like to add to that? I mean, when it comes to customer communication, what are the key things that organization need to make sure that they are doing right?
Well, here's the thing about communication, right? Is that it is often overlooked when we design the customer experience. I think it's one of the most overlooked pieces of that. And so I think we really need to understand how, when, where and to whom we are communicating. And so, I'll just throw out there, you're going to want to journey map. You're going to want to do two things. You're going to want to capture all of your touch points. So create a touch point map that captures and inventories all the different ways that you touch the customers, all the different ways that you communicate with customers. And then you're gonna also want to go drill down a level and journey map around those those interactions and those experiences and understand the specific types of communications that are happening. I think people forget about that when they're designing the experience. So I think that's a really important piece, is to do that work. The second thing that I would say is
there a problem with my connection, or and its screen is frozen?
No, and that's a great free screen.
Yeah, I think Greg and Neil, I think three of them have the screen has frozen for three of them.
Oh, we lost Greg.
Okay. So till the time we can't hear Annette and Neil, and we have already lost Greg. Adrian, I would like to take this opportunity to hear from you on the same question, if you can answer.
About communication?
Yes.
Right. Crumbs. I'm lost with Annette's frozen screen still there. She looks like she's slightly shocked. And she probably is slightly shocked, and she'll look even probably more shocked when she comes back on. But I do think Annette started by saying that communication and how we communicate is one of the most overlooked things in that whole mix. And I think that's absolutely right. I think that we should pay more attention to, one, how we speak, kind of what we write, the sort of the tone of it, the type of words that we use. But I think, to Neil's point, I think it's also what's also kind of like really important is we've also got to make sure that we equip people with the skills and also the opportunity to be able to connect with different sort of people, because different people require different things. When we can use character models, personality models to better understand that. Some people might want kind of really, really, really quick, straightforward, direct kind of communication. And some people might kind of want something different, which is a bit more slow, a bit more kind of like tempered, a bit more encouraging, and so on and so forth. So I think we need to, the thing, if you like, the muscle that we need to develop is the communication muscle that allows us to flex our communication depending on who's in front of us in whatever situation. I think, as Annette kind of said, journey mapping can help us understand that, but that's like becomes an academic thing. Then we have to think about how do we operationalize that, and how do we build out the capability to be able to deliver on that, and also to be able to switch and deliver on the fly. So if we have somebody that comes in that maybe on the phone, or they walk into a store when things go back to normal, or they walk into an office or whatever, that we can actually listen to with a view to really understanding who they are, how they are, and then we can respond appropriately. And I think that sort of capability, that sort of muscle training, that's hard work. It takes a long time. Neil will tell you this. It's just that's gritty, proper work. But there is gold in them there hills. So I would encourage you to go and look for it.
Great. Thank you, Adrian. Greg, you wanted to say something?
I did. I think that this is entirely right. When we're having this conversation, it makes sense to us because people are listening. We're taking in the information. We are taking what we know about the people who are here as speakers and what we know as the people from the chat. We're using all that information to decide what we say next and how we interact next. Your company needs to be able to do that too. And your company has to make sure that you're having your marketing department and your fulfillment department and your customer service department and your loyalty department all work towards that same goal. And so that's why it's really important to make sure that customer experiences is not viewed as something that's just happening, but it's viewed as a goal of the company. It's viewed as a common way that we're thinking about the way that we orient our staff and that we design our systems. And that all is manifest in the end in the communication, whether that's an email confirmation or a conversation you're having on the phone.
Great. Thank you so much, Greg. All right. Looks like Annette is facing some technical challenge to join us back on stage. So in the meantime, let me take the next question. Hi, Annette. You're back.
Oh my goodness. That was so bizarre.
Yeah, but glad to have you back again.
Thank you. I was saying something really insightful too when we all just got knocked out. So I'm just saying it was going to be good.
So do you still want to continue with the point that you were mentioning about customer communication?
I think the point that I was trying to make was around the fact that communication has to be timely, personalized, and relevant. And I think those are probably the three key factors or components of good communication. So I'll just add that on top of the, the work that you have to do to make sure you know where and when and to whom you're communicating. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Annette. So Neil, let me take this question to you. So as we all know that, analyzing and measuring whatever the efforts an organization is making is very, very important. What metrics should be used to monitor customer experience, and how important is it for an organization?
So I think if anyone wants to do a deep dive into voice of customer metrics, read Annette's recent posts on LinkedIn. She's an expert on many spaces, but particularly this one. Some really impressive work and thoughts on there. I think so. Overall, voice of customer is important. I think that I don't have a blueprint that says if you do these metrics, you are going to offer great customer experience. It's not linear. What I think voice of customer metrics will show you, I refer to them as gateway drugs. They will give you just enough to get you interested and want to do more, meaning dig deeper, find out more, analyze. So if you're asking things like CSAT questions, are you satisfied? If not, why? Same thing around effort. What's happening with effort? Effort can be tied back to lots of things. It can be tied back to the call center or contact center. It can be tied into journey maps or lack thereof. NPS, the same thing. And there's so many others. I think that ask the questions, you will get some answers, but those answers should cause you to be more curious and dig deeper and deeper and deeper. By the way, what's really interesting with technology is that not only are there data points, so we're all tied into metrics. We love numbers to be able to show, the C-suite, we did this and we improved here and the percentages, because that's how all of our bonuses get calculated in theory, right? We can now take qualitative data, things that customers say, and create data out of that, taking words and creating data out of that. The quality management and speech analytics technology is sensational to be able to decipher what it is that people are saying, not just their scores in a survey, but the words that they're using to describe their experience. And that can be turned into measurable data.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Neil. Adrian, would you like to add to that? What metrics should be used to monitor customer experience, and how important is it for organizations?
Again, I guess it might be kind of my background as an economist, but the best answer to this is that it depends. And there's no one size fits all. It's all completely contextual. I could give you an example of the best performing financial services organization in the UK that grew at double digits kind of every year for, the few years kind of prior to the financial crash, kind of early, kind of like about 10 years ago, and then grew at double digits through the financial crash, and then in double digits every year since. And we've lost Rashmi, but never mind. We'll keep going because all the audience is here. That's fine. And I guess my point with all of that is that what they do is they don't measure anything. They just focus on doing the right things for the right reasons for the right people. And they went through a process to do that. And actually, yeah, they do some NPS sort of stuff because it's just helps them understand kind of how things are going. But it's more of a market research thing more than anything else. But they're not driven by that. They're driven by this internal locus, which says we are doing these things because these things matter to us and to our customers. And they drive on that, and they're so focused on it and so focused on how well they do that, then that metrics for them is not really important, because actually the outcomes is a great service, a great experience for their customers, and great returns for their kind of like business. So my point with all of this is that actually we have to be careful that metrics are not a crutch that get in the way of us doing stuff. And the problem is that many people use metrics as a crutch. It's almost a bit like driving your car, looking at the speedometer or looking at the petrol gauge. That makes no sense, because you're not paying attention to the road in front of you and what the kind of how much traffic there is, or how many potholes there might be, if the cows walked out into the road or whatever, right? So managing your business from kind of like a set of dials doesn't make any sense if you're not connected to the driving experience and the road and the journey that you're on. And so I actually think you stretch this analogy a little bit further. You can drive a car from A to B and have a very comfortable journey without any dashes or dials by focusing just on driving.
I rented that car once. But I think I would build on with Adrian is way too often people get concerned about that specific metric. To me, I think there are a couple foundational questions that are important. Is your entire team aware of the company's commitment to customer experience? Are they each equipped and empowered to contribute to that customer experience? Are they serving their customers and one another well? Are your customers pleased with what they're receiving? And then lastly, and I think, Neil, thank you for keep hammering this one home, are the business metrics performing well? Because we're not in this just to create a great customer experience. We're in this to create great business outcomes. At the same time, we're delivering a great customer experience.
Great. Thank you so much, Adrian and Greg, for answering that question. So I see we have limited time and there are a lot of questions there in the question section. So let me take one last question from my research that I have done, and then we'll move to the questions that the audience is asking. So Neil, let me take this question to you. What role does organizational structure play in improving customer experience, and what kind of structure do you suggest to provide an unbeatable experience to the customer?
Wow, that's a fascinating one. I think the most successful structure is the structure that can adapt and evolve. And we've certainly seen that in the last year. I used to have an idea of the blueprint that, so again, my organization is a contact center. We must have this specific hierarchy that the different quality standards and protocols demand that we have. And we did that. And you know what happened? It didn't help us provide better customer experiences. It didn't help me provide better results to my clients. What it showed me is that you need to be adaptable, and you need to be able to evolve. And what is working today isn't necessarily going to work next month, because you get a thing called the pandemic that happens. And the boxer Mike Tyson said once, everyone is prepared except when you get punched in the nose. And we're getting punched in the nose. Our organizations are getting punched in the nose every single day, every single week, and we need to evolve and adapt. So what works today isn't necessarily going to work tomorrow. The job title or position that you create for this person today may not be the right thing a month from now, 3 months from now. The human resources strategy that we believe makes sense for us may evolve rapidly. Look what happened in the pandemic in my organization. We didn't believe in work from home. Work from home? Why would we need that? We're a contact center. We have brick and mortar sites. We've invested in the sites. Darn it. Look what happened. And you know what happened? We still have 2 sites, but our business has grown to work from home, and that's it. That's the future, the present and the future. I don't want to be the great authority that says you must do this and you're going to be wonderful and your business results are going to be sensational. I think the key here is to be adaptable and flexible.
Thank you, Neil. Annette, would you like to add your opinion on that, the role that organization structure play for a better customer experience, and what would you like to suggest to companies out there?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is years ago, worked with a company that had 4 different lines of business, all very siloed, had shared services, but, you know, and if you were a customer of theirs, you used at least 2 of those 4 and often 3 of the 4, sometimes all 4 of them. But when you started from the beginning and then got to number 4 didn't know who you were, that you ever had interacted with number 1, line of business number 1. So they actually flipped their structure on its head, and their structure now, and I've seen a couple of other companies do this, really follows the flow of the customer journey, right? So it's not just, you know, we've got marketing, we've got sales, we've got right? They flipped it on its head and really just followed that customer journey. And now you start from here, and clearly data and integrated data systems and all of that is very key here. But that's what they did. And I was just impressed that they actually ended up taking on that recommendation and doing it. But I've seen a few other organizations who have done that. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you so much, Annette. So let's move to the question section and see what audience is asking. I see a lot of questions has already been answered by the panelists. So this question is asked by Tim Gale. The question will be on your screen, and it says, knowing that customer experience is now the primarily differentiator over price and product, what do the panel believe will be the key differentiator within CX moving forward to help organizations create a USP over their competitors? This could be tech, process, culture, etc. Anyone from the panel who would like to answer this question?
It's a trick question. You know, if you had asked this question a year ago, you know, we probably would have said, you know, that it was about creating an immersive experience. You know, before the pandemic, hotels and retailers were working on how to create that immersive emotional experience when you come into a retail environment or into a hospitality environment. You know, now that's shifted entirely. So, you know, I think that it might have been Annette who said it earlier, or maybe it was Adrian. The real challenge is to create that nimble capacity so that you'll be able to leverage all of those.
Great. Anyone else who would like to add? Yeah, Annette, please go ahead.
CX is your differentiator. You've got a lot of those things already. Obviously, you have to have the right culture in place, right? I mean, you have to have those foundational elements. And yeah, you might add some technology, but you know, to me, technology is not the experience. Technology is a tool that facilitates and, you know, supports the experience. So, you know, we talked about automation earlier. If you've got an app or whatever it is, those things are going to enhance or you know, facilitate the experience, but they are not the experience. So the other thing that I would add is, you know, ask your customers. I'm a big one on take the time to listen to your customers, take the time to understand your customers and talk to them, because they're the ones that are going to really help identify for you what those key differentiators are.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Adrian, go ahead.
Can I just say final kind of like word on this? Or
yeah.
Final word from me. So one of the challenges that I have with all of this, and I have done for a number of years, I'm surprised it hasn't given me an ulcer because it continues to bug me, is there's a lot of people that go about the whole idea of trying to deliver a differentiated sort of experience to the customers. And they do it in a paint by numbers approach and expect to create art, right? But the point is, you cannot just fill in the gaps and do the same thing as everybody else and expect to create art. That's just not how art is created. Art requires you to go above and beyond and do more and think differently. To take all those kind of pieces, to take that kind of palette of colors and combine them in a way, whether it's, to Tim's question, whether it's tech or process or culture or whatever it might be, and combine them in a unique way, and then offer them to the customers. They go, maybe not just for everybody, but for some of them, they go, that rocks. I love that. I'm sticking around. That's for me. That is the challenge. It's not about just going doing the same thing and expecting to be different from anybody else is just where madness lies, right? And so I think we're inviting companies to take on the challenge of how do you create your own art, and that's the thing that makes you stand out.
All right. Thank you so much, Adrian. So let's take the next question. It will be on your screen. So I think, we have not. All right, this is a new question by Irwin. The question is, CX concept has changed nowadays due to the pandemic. We have many countries, for instance, Latin America, where there are huge number of small and medium businesses, which don't have as many resources as biggest companies. So how can they get into this new concept in order to face the new reality? Neil, you want to go ahead?
So Latin America is close to my heart, given that we operate our contact centers within Latin America. So we observe and see what the small and medium-sized market is like down there, as well as the large corporate market. And you're right, there is a challenge in resources. And by the way, this is not a Latin America phenomenon. This is a global phenomenon. This also occurs in the US, it occurs in Europe, it occurs in Asia and Africa and everywhere else. I would push back on that argument just a little bit. Anyone can get access to technology. It is inexpensive. It is almost investment free, meaning you no longer have to buy servers. You no longer have to hire expensive consultants and team members. The cloud has democratized and made the playing field much more level for companies of all shapes and sizes and revenue. The ability to contract technology and be able to turn it off in 1 month because of the cloud-based model and software as a service model makes it very easy. There are no more handcuffs that were fastened to like the old days of, because you invested thousands and thousands of dollars in servers and data centers and things like that. Those conditions don't exist anymore. I would go do Google searches on the things that you're looking for. Contact center software is available. You can increase it and decrease it 1 month to the next. The same with data and security and compliance software. It runs the entire gamut. I would challenge the notion that this is not a game for small and medium-sized businesses. I'd argue the opposite. It is.
I forgot to unmute myself. All right. Thank you so much, Neil. So let's take the next question. Greg has been sharing something. So guys, do check that out. All right. Let's take the next question. It's on your screen. Charlize is asking, what is the difference between CX, service design, human-centered service design? Are all the same with different names? Anyone who would like to answer?
Sure.
I'll keep it simple. Human-centered design and service design are ways to achieve a great customer experience, right? They're tools and methods and methodologies used to design and deliver a great customer experience.
Greg, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, we've had this come up with a few other topics in the chat around UX, et cetera. Customer experience is holistic. It includes both design and delivery. It includes the user experience on the website and what happens when you contact the call center. So customer experience it can really be viewed as the overarching home for many of these other techniques.
Thank you, Greg. The next question is asked by Merukyo. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I think we have touched upon this question a little bit, but it would be great if someone from the panel can answer this question. It's on the screen. The question is, what are your favorite steps to calculate potential ROI on CX investments? Any other beside correlation with NPS? Anyone who would like to answer?
Correlation to NPS. Yeah, absolutely. I think the key thing is when you're going to calculate ROI is you've got to connect it to business outcomes. That's obviously, and that's a no-brainer, right? But you have to know what business outcomes are important to your executives so that you can make that connection. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to take a look at the initiative that you've identified through, whether it's voice of the customer, voice of the employee, whatever it is. Take a look at that initiative, spell it out. What is it? What's involved? How is it going to impact the employee? How's it going to impact the customer? What's the and then what's the metric that's going to be impacted, right? And you've got to have some obviously costs, some hard numbers there, or potential hard numbers there, and then what's the return? Ultimately, how is it going to impact the business outcome? It can be as simple as, a simple example is, we've gotten feedback from our customers in the call center that we need to, make X improvement, right? Well, if we make this improvement, we're estimating that our call volume every month is going to go from 10,000 to 5,000, right? So now you're going to go, okay, what's the cost per call, in terms of the reduction, and what's the cost, so let's say you've got, again, 10,000. So let's say cost per call is $50. So now you're at $500,000, right? You make the improvement, you're estimating the cost for the improvement. You've got to include that in that calculation. And then after the improvement, you say you've got 5,000 calls per month at $50. So now you're at $250,000. So you've reduced your cost within the call center from 500 to 225 or 250. I'm sorry, and then you have to factor in the cost, right? So it can be just as simple as that. Where does the cost go from here to here, from before to after? And what were the costs to make those improvements? And ultimately, the difference there is going to be your ROI. One of the things that is really important to remember too is that a lot of times the executives like to hear about cost savings first before they think about more revenue. And more revenue is actually harder in terms of ROI because now you're speculating, right? But in terms of cost savings, what it costs to make these improvements. What it costs to per call. What some of those things are. So it's actually even easier to start with the ROI based on cost savings. So I know that's kind of hard to visualize in terms of just talking about it, but I could throw up a slide and show you an example. But
that was a great explanation and a very detailed one. And I hope, Marikyo, you got the answer of your question. We are already ahead of time, so let's quickly take 1 to 2 more questions. Ko is asking this question. It's on the screen. The new digital economy has almost forced into existence lack of human touch in many situations. Don't we have to look at an economy where the human element is removed from CX transition? What will this economy look like? Anyone who would want to answer?
I don't agree that that's but go ahead, Neil.
Sorry, I was going to say, so I alluded to this point before that this is not an economy. This is what we are in presently and headed towards in the future is an economy not without humans. We will have humans in it. I think the role that humans play is what is going to significantly evolve. The old days of a human sitting in a contact center chair and just providing the basic repetitive tasks, responses, and performing the same repetitive tasks, that work has to evolve. Having the human do that versus having a bot do the exact same thing, it's night and day in terms of cost. Where the human element comes into play and where the opportunity is for all of us is to become hopefully smarter, add value, become more highly skilled in certain things. That's where I think, as we look into it, and what I would recommend people that are entering the workforce or looking to make changes is take a different angle, see how you can add value to what you're doing, become more trained, more skilled, learn, go to CXPA and study these things so that you can add value.
Thank you, Neil. Yeah, Greg, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I thank you, Neil, for that. I just want to say, keep in mind that if we accept the definition of customer experience as referring to the perception that customers have, we really have to keep in mind how that customer feels. And if you are over automating and removing that human contact, you're ignoring a basic human fundamental desire to connect and to get to know other folks. So automation and efficiency can be very positive, but we have to figure out how to keep that human touch.
I don't think that's, and I agree with you. I think we learned that in the last year, right, with the pandemic. I think we all missed that human touch, right? So I 110% agree with you on that. And I would say there's research out there too that says that, the more technologically advanced we become, the more people want that human interaction.
Thank you.
Can I just say,
Yeah.
to build on kind of that, that's not new. That's been around for years. And we've seen in the last sort of 10 months, we've seen this massive rush to digital, and that's fine. And we've seen also, but on the societal side, we've seen a massive spike in anxiety and stress and everything else, and people wanting more of that human touch. But the idea that we've been building humanless digital experiences is not new. There's global research from Accenture that dates back to 2016 or so that showed across the world that different people were going, you're pushing all of this, but you're not getting it right. So I think the volume on that has just been turned up. It's been exacerbated by the conditions. But the challenge is, are we willing to pay attention to it? Because therein lies the challenge. Because if that's what customers want, and as Greg says, if we're not listening to them and we're not building and responding to that, as Neil says, we're not building an organization that's adaptable enough to respond to those signals, then we lose. We lose customers, maybe lose market share, and we possibly lose our business. Who knows? But that's it. Unfortunately, I've got to go because I've got to go and do something else.
Yeah, I was about to come to that. I mean, we are already ahead of 15 minutes. So let's wrap this up. We had a lot of questions in the question section, and that proves that we need to get to one more panel discussion. So definitely we will be, having this discussion again in the near future. So that was the last question, everyone, for everyone, and I hope everyone enjoyed this. This was indeed a value-packed session, and I hope everyone loved it once again. Thank you to all the panelists for taking out the time for this event and joining us. Before I wrap up, any last thing that you want to say, Adrian?
Just thank you. Keep up the good work. Keep pushing. Keep driving. It'll be fine. We're trusting and we're looking for all of your efforts. That's all.
And it.
Yeah, I will echo that. Yeah, thank you all for joining us today. I hope it was an insightful session for you. And yeah, keep doing good things and keep fighting the good fight.
Neil.
I love being part of this panel. Thank you, Designhill, for including me. For those that want to learn more, read Adrian and Annette's work. Adrian, I think you also have some audio and video content you put out there. Podcast CX Punk is sensational. What Greg is doing, leading the CXPA, is just a wonderful effort, and it's a leading association. I would encourage everyone to pay very close attention to that. And thank you for allowing me to be part of this panel.
Greg.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. This is an exciting time. If we can create a future where companies are successful and customers are happier and employees are engaged, we will all be better off. And so thank you, Designhill, for sponsoring this conversation. And thank you to everybody for thinking about how we make a better world together through CX.
Thank you so much once again to all the panelists, Neil, Annette, Adrian, and Greg, for joining us and taking out the time. I hope you guys equally had a great time. All right, everybody, this is not where it ends. We have a lot more events lined up in the coming days. If you guys are interested and haven't registered yet, my team member Harshita will be putting up the events link wherein you can find insightful sessions like this for which you can register. So make sure you check that out and register for the upcoming events. Also, if you would like to stay updated with events like this and would want to watch the previous events that we have posted on similar topics, you can visit our YouTube channel and subscribe to it and see all the videos there. All the recorded videos are there. For all the designers and artists and business community who is listening to this and want to build the brand today, visit designhill.com. Lastly, you can follow all our speakers on Twitter and LinkedIn to learn more about customer experience. And if you want to build your brand, you can use a coupon code COCX15 to avail 15% discount on Designhill contest service. On that note, I would like to say goodbye to everyone who joined us here today. Hope you had a good time. You have been a lovely audience. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope to see you again in the next one.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Greg, take care. See ya. I think they turned us off. Oh, there you
So,
go.
Neil, I'll drop you an email. I have a project coming up that I want to chat with you about.
Love it. Thank you. Would like that. I really enjoyed it. Great,
Thanks.
great panel. Great interacting together. Thank you.
It was. Thank you for your participation.